So it was late August 2012, and my husband Michael and I were facing a cliff in life. We were either going to zoom and fly over this cliff, or we were going to crash. And this cliff was the life change of an empty nest. Our daughter had just graduated college and wanted to live on her own, and our son had just graduated high school, and he was off for a year in Venezuela, after which he was going to join the army. And Venezuela now is bad, but then it was getting bad. Chavez was raiding against American capitalist pigs, and the State Department website talked about the murder rate in Caracas, and we had to talk to the host parents about exchanging money on the black market, and it was not a place you want your child to go off, and so we were anxious. Our hearts were anxious and sad. And one of these sad, humid August mornings, I was mowing the grass, and underneath the raspberry bush there was this odd orange color. So I stopped the mower and I looked under the bush, and it was a monarch butterfly, and it was opening and closing its wings. But one of the wings was kind of shriveled, and that didn't look right. So I picked this butterfly up and I took it inside and I put it in one of those plastic pretzel jars, you know, the big ones, with a stick and some leaves, and I went to the internet to see what I could find out. And it turns out that monarchs get a kind of fungus that can shrivel their wings. And or if they fall before their wings are dry and it gets bent, then they can't straighten those out and they'll never be able to fly. So if this butterfly was going to survive, we were going to have to take care of her. And I learned that she might like a honey and water mixture. So I made this honey and water solution, and I soaked a paper towel in it, and I put the towel and her on this plate, and immediately this antenna that you wouldn't have seen, now I know it's called a proboscis, I think, it unfurled like a fiddlehead fern and went down in the paper towel. She was obviously enjoying this honey and water. And you might notice by now I'm calling her she. Well, we don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but it was she, and her name was Vicki. And if you ask me, I named her Vicki between the lawnmower and the house, because she had this poor shriveled wing, and she was going to need a victorious name, Victoria, to overcome her disability. And if you ask Michael, he named her Vicki 2 or 3 days later for exactly the same reason. Now, I don't know which story is factual, but the truth you see here is that both of us were so invested in this butterfly. We love this little butterfly, so each of us thinks that we named her. And she was awfully cute. She would crawl up my arm, and she found this place she liked to perch on my shirt. And she would ride around on my shirt all day. If I wasn't off somewhere in the car, she was sitting on my shirt. She would wash the dishes with me. She would go and work in the garden with me. Same shirt, right? She would walk the dog up the hill with me. She was always on my shirt. And you'll notice that she was right over my heart, my sad heart. And I kid you not, it felt like she was drawing the sadness up out of my heart. And she was putting in this little bit of freshness and beauty and youth. And I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that it felt tangible. There was just something so sweet and hopeful about this little butterfly, and not only for me, but for Michael to watch it. I don't know. That was just there. It was like she was helping us. And when she wasn't on my shirt, one thing she liked to do was to climb up the kitchen window screen. It was a casement window with a tall screen, and she would climb up here, and I guess she felt like she was outside when she was really safe inside. So one day I left her there, and I went off. I don't know where I went, in the car somewhere, and Michael came in a little later and found her drowned, he thought, in a bowl of water that I had left. I shouldn't have left in the sink. And he was, horrified. He couldn't bear that she might be dead, and he fished her out, and he held her in front of the fan. It was August. Of course, the fan was on in the kitchen, and he held her and held her and held her and held her, and she moved. So he held her and held her some more. I don't know how long it took, but quite a while, and her wings dried out, and she revived. And when I came home, I couldn't have told there was anything wrong with her if he hadn't told me that had happened. And another time, I left her by some flowers. Our patio was gravel, and there are in-ground flowers in containers, and I left her by a flower by the hosta plants, and I went to leave the others. And when I came back, she was gone. And she couldn't fly. Where could she be? We looked in the flowers. We looked all over the gravel, down the path. She was gone. I mean, we looked a long time. And finally, pit in our stomach. That's the way life is. Children leave, bad things happen, butterflies die, they disappear, everything is terrible. And so that was it. Came out some hours later. There she was, flopping around by the hospital. And I ran over and picked her up. And she acted like a dog when you come back from vacation. She let her little lopsided legs, let all over my hand, and she flapped her wings, and she was obviously happy to be back with me. I mean, you wouldn't expect an insect to have feelings, but it was clear that she was really rejoicing to be reunited with us. Well, now it's a couple of days before we have to take Caleb. In fact, he had already left. He was ready to get out of here. He'd gone to visit his cousins. He left his packed bags. And we were to bring those bags on the train to New York and get him on the plane to Venezuela. Well, what to do with Vicki? Leave her for the pet sitter, who wouldn't have the time to to enjoy her, to take care of her, or bring her in her pretzel jar on the train through the streets of New York City. So we couldn't decide. Well, she was on my shirt, and we walked up the hill with the dog, and on the way back down, it's a dirt road, gravel, boom, there she was, and I almost stepped on her. I picked her up, put her back on my shirt, another step, boom, there she was. It's like she's jumping off. So I picked her up. Why is she jumping off? I looked around. There was a flower right there by the side of the road that she was smelling. I think she was trying to fly to the flower. And I think it's because I picked the flower, and she was very happy to sit on that flower the rest of the way home. So, she didn't do any more jumping off, so I think it was that flower. But whether it was the hitting the gravel or the fungus, the next morning when we came downstairs, Vicki had left this life and gone on to the next. And so it was convenient because now we didn't have to figure out what to do with her, but we were sad. Michael made her a little box with cotton in it, of course, and we left the box, and we took the bags, and we got on the train in Albany, and we went to New York, and we met up with Caleb, and we took him 4:30 in the morning to JFK, and I thought the plane left at 6 or something. We would have a little while to sit and talk, and Dunkin' Donuts wasn't even open. There wasn't anybody there really except the people for this plane, but they processed him right away, and then he was able to get on the plane right away, and no, he would want to sit and talk to us. No, he wanted to go and get on the plane, and there he went down the hall, and there he was gone, and I wanted to sit there, wait for the plane to leave. What if he wanted to get off the plane, what if he wanted to needed us and called on the phone or cell phone. So we sat there, 10 minutes, and Michael said, this is ridiculous. Come on, we're going to leave. And so I deserted him on that big bad plane, and crying on the subway all the way back to the hotel, and we took a stupid nap and get back on the train and go home without even the suitcases, empty, and get in the car on the interminable drive up Route 40 in Easton and Greenwich. Passing the paper plant in Greenwich, there was this beautiful, intense rainbow over the sky, just vivid. You could see both sides. The next day on Facebook, everybody had posted pictures of this rainbow. I mean, it was a stunning rainbow, and we pulled off the road and just looked at it. And there's something about rainbows. It's the reason it's the end of that Noah story. There's a hopeful, healing, I don't know what, about the color, the nature, the magic of it. We just soaked in that rainbow, and it was like, okay, it's going to be all right. And we got home, and of course we were all right. This happens to everybody. And so we were okay, but we still hadn't buried Vicki. So we took her in her little box, and we buried her. And I wanted to show you a picture of the box that Michael made for her. And it says, on broken wing, she healed our heart. And that's the story of Vicki, the butterfly.